South Orange County Community College District, welcome to our very distinguished friend, President Scott Lay.
But where did this California's budget crisis come from? We all know about the budget crisis. You probably heard that they had this big 4-hour debate on Sunday, which was really a debate to nowhere. Yesterday, the Democrats in the legislature ostracized one of their own who had refused to vote for the budget until there was a flood bond, a water bond package. They actually moved Nicole Parra from the Fresno area, a Democrat, across the street, moved her office outside of the state capitol. So things aren't going all that well in California. California's economy, as you know, in the late 1990s, really was buoyed by the income earned by really a small subset of Californians that were paying really extraordinary personal income taxes on stock options and capital gains. As the stock market rode up, as well as the housing market, individuals in the high income earnings were paying about, the 9.3% marginal tax rate on billions of dollars of personal income. Between 1999 and 2000 and 2001, $120 billion in personal income in California disappeared. $120 billion in 1 year. And as I mentioned, that tax rate's 9.3% on the marginal, which almost all of these taxpayers were paying the highest marginal rate. We as a state lost about $10 billion in tax revenue overnight. It should have been seen. The legislature didn't catch on to it. The administration, neither the Wilson administration or the Gray Davis administration, really caught on to the magnitude of the cliff that we're about ready to jump off of. But all of our budgetary problems since then have basically been caused by that one-time loss of $10 billion in tax revenue. The governor's budget was good for community colleges. No doubt about it. We had worked with the administration. In the end, the governor came out against Proposition 92, the community college funding measure that was on the February ballot. But we worked closely with the governor, and the impact of having that ballot measure on the ballot meant that community colleges were treated much more favorably than other parts of the budget, both when the governor introduced his budget in January and when he revised his budget in May. Well, because you're a basic aid district, you don't directly access those funds. It does provide general guidelines as to what's the proper pace of growth in the community college system. There was a great report a few years ago by the Education Testing Service, that organization that is responsible for the most miserable day in most of our lives when we took those standardized tests. But America's Perfect Storm looks at 3 major factors that are affecting our national economy, but nowhere in this country do the findings of this report have more applicability than here in California. What this report found was our population has never been more educationally unprepared for the jobs that are existing right now. Moreover, the jobs of tomorrow are going to require a higher and higher skill level. And where we look at demographic population growth, the populations that are growing the fastest are those that have the lowest skill levels. A remarkable fact is that between now and 2020, the entire job growth in our nation will be filled by immigrants, both documented and undocumented immigrants. That's a demographic fact. Our natural population increases are only enough to basically replace the workers that are currently in the economy. And so this report basically says, y'all better wake up, because the sustainability of our national economy, as I mentioned here in California, is going to be absolutely dependent on our ability of equipping all of the populations, including those who are growing the most, with the skills necessary so that we can be competitive in the workplace. As you know, there's a world economy now, and if we're not competitive, somebody else will be competitive. Your chancellor was talking about that earlier on. Additionally, we have a growing inequality in our country. This is truly remarkable. Between 1979 and 2008, the only demographic subset of income groups that had a real increase in wages were people that had master's degree or higher. Now, fortunately for most people in this room, you're in that category, but unfortunately you chose to work in community colleges. But that's too high. But this is remarkable, and I want you to think about this as you think about how you interact with your students. Because community college is a remarkable thing. It provided my gateway from being a high school dropout to getting a law degree. But it has to be the first rung on the economic and educational ladder in order to make a true difference in the long run in moving people, in allowing people to have income mobility. And so think about that as you interact with that student on in their very first class on Irvine Valley College campus or Saddleback College campus. Think about the fact that your job is not just to connect with them on your curricular area, but to begin what's going to be a lifelong process of learning and hopefully the ability to actually climb up the wage ladder, the career ladders that are out there and available to them. Additionally, we have a major demographic issue that needs to be addressed from an educational perspective. To women under the age of 30, 40% of all births are out of wedlock. And you can see from the numbers that it's most pronounced in some demographic groups. And we have to be prepared to inherit this legacy as these students move into our colleges, understanding that they didn't have the opportunity to have a parent at home reading with them. They were more likely sitting in front of a television, hopefully learning from an educational video, but nothing like what previous generations have had as an educational environment growing up. Additionally, we've got major problems and challenges with student success. This is a report by Nancy Shulock out of Sacramento State University, the Institute for Higher Education Policy and Research, and I dispute a lot of her conclusions from a policy perspective, but the facts are out there. Part-time students have the odds stacked up against them. If you're a part-time student, like 2/3 of the students in the California community colleges are, you have a 12% chance of getting a degree between now and 6 years from now. 2.7 million people in California's community colleges, 164,000 completions. That's not enough. That is not going to meet those challenges that are identified in America's Perfect Storm, or if we wrote it, California's Perfect Storm. Nancy Shulock points out that we don't have much of a motivation to get those students to come and stay full-time. I'll talk a little bit more about financial aid, but think about that as well. Are we doing all we can when we know that the chances of succeeding as a part-time student are downright miserable? Are we doing all we can to ensure that a student has the opportunity to be here full-time? Or is an FTES an FTES? When I was a student at Orange Coast College and I was in an English class and I finally had that faculty member that connected with me. This was, redemption after I told too many faculty in high school where they could go. And Joanne Mapson, an adjunct faculty member in English at Orange Coast College, connected with me in a night class. She was there writing her first novel, and she looked at each and every student in the classroom as an opportunity. As a brick wall, yes, but a brick wall that was meant to overcome. So as you enter the classroom next week, don't look at students, don't look at what they're facing as cement walls, look at them as brick walls. Your job is to help them get over it, like Joanne Mapson helped me get over it. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful afternoon.
But you don't love me. Hey, I get the point, but you don't love me. And you're gonna say it again, but you don't love me. You're stuck all by yourself.